Okay. Happy Friday. I'm going to do a little video for you so you guys have some time to work on your projects. All right. We're throwing it back to a video. How about it? Who's excited? I am. All right. So we know that this triangle bat is isosceles with base TB. Okay. It's important that this is a very important part of this sentence, okay, because that tells you which of the three sides are not congruent to the other two. All right, so I know that if TB is the base, then AB and AT have to be congruent, okay? If I know they're congruent, then if I want to find the value of x, I would just say 3 times x plus 2 equals 24, right? And then I could solve from there. Why don't you solve from there for me? Or pause it. Actually, pause it. Pause it. Pause it. Pause it. I don't like this smart notebook stuff. All right, here we go. Hopefully you paused it. Maybe you didn't. Who knows? There's no way to know. 3x equals what? 18? So x is 6. All right, so the point of this now, this base angle theorem that we're talking about, and this is going to be on the next little part. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. Hey, this is on your packet from Tuesday. I remember how I told you, well, first of all, it's a very small packet. I told you that we were going to need this packet today. All right, it starts on the next page, okay, starting here. All right, the 5.2/5.4 notes packet, okay. But what this base angle theorem tells us is that if I have two congruent sides, then those angles that are across from them are also going to be congruent. All right, so it says if two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite of them are congruent. Same idea. If the base angles are congruent, then the sides opposite of them are congruent as well. So when we start proofs next week, all right, you're going to see this. We're going to use this. So congruent sides implies congruent base angles. That's for number 1. Number 2, our converse. Okay, congruent base angles implies congruent sides. All right, and that's like our shorthand notation that we're going to start to use. Okay, so we're going to apply this to a couple diagrams here. All right, they're interesting diagrams. Okay, it takes a bit to see it, but I'll help you out. I'm sorry that they're so small. I got cut off there. All right, let's go back to it. So if you look at number 1, all right, I noticed that all 3 of these angles in my triangle are congruent, which means I have an equiangular triangle or equilateral triangle, okay? Which means I have an equilateral triangle. So if this side is 46, then this whole side is also 46, and this whole side is also 46. All right, well, I don't know why that 4 is there, but ignore that, okay? Well, if that whole side is 46, then y has to equal 46 minus 16, right? Which is 30, okay? I also know that, hey, if I have an equilateral triangle like this, all right, every angle is 60, like I said before. Well, let's backtrack. If this is 80, then this angle that is adjacent to it or right next to it has to be 100, right? We're finding x now, that's an 100. Well, if that's 100 and this angle up top is 60, I'm going to redraw this because it's hard to see with my big fingers here. Here we go. So this was 100. This was 60. And I need to find my x value. Well, these are angles in a triangle. Angles in a triangle must add up to 180 degrees. So x would be 180 minus 160, so x is 20. All right. These are a little bit weird. I'm trying to throw the hardest ones at you first. That way, when we get to some more easier ones, you'll be fine. Okay. All right. So let's look at number 2. Number 2. You can pause this video at any time and then check your work if you want to as well. All right. Well, actually, why don't we pause this for number 2? Pause for a minute. Give it a shot first, and then I will explain it. Okay, welcome back. I paused myself there. All right, so let's follow our tick marks. If this is 20, then this is 20, right? I know that these 3 angles are the same, which makes these 3 sides the same. So if I want to find y, well, that side is going to be equal to our 20. So I'll divide both sides by 5. Y is 4. Okay. Well, I know that these 3 angles are the same. So if this is 60, oops. If this angle right here is 60, then this has to be 120. All right, so if that angle is 120, I'm going to redraw this picture down below for us again so we can see this triangle a little bit better. So this was 120 right here, 120 degrees. This was X. These 2 sides were the same, with this being 20, which makes this 20. All right, so I want to use my base angle theorem here, okay? If you look at this, if I turn it sideways a little bit, all right, I have an isosceles triangle. Okay, well, since I have an isosceles triangle, that means I have 2 congruent sides, right? Well, if I have 2 congruent sides, then I also have 2 congruent angles. Okay? Well, remember, in a triangle, angles have to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so if that angle is 120 here, then these 2 angles together must equal 60. 180 minus 120 is 60. That's the sum of these 2 angles, though. Well, since they are congruent, I just divide it by 2 to get 30. Now, if you want to think about it algebraically, I'll show you an algebraic equation as well. Since they're congruent, I can also call that one x. So I know that 120 plus x must equal 180, or 2x equals 60. So again, x is 30. Now, how did I get that 60? I got the 60 by subtracting the 120 to both sides. All right. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to go to the next one. And we're going to practice a lot when I get back. Okay, so if you're confused, that's all right. Don't get frustrated. All right, so I know if these 2 sides are the same, that makes these 2 angles the same. Well, if that's 70 and that's 70, I have 140. 180 minus 140 gives me 40. Pause this. Hopefully you paused it. Welcome back. Maybe. All right, if this is 40, then this angle over here has to be 40. They're vertical angles, right? Well, if that's 40 and this is 70, 180 minus 40 minus 70 gives me 70. So this is 70. So the question has to explain why ABC is isosceles, right? Well, if you look at ABC, okay, 70 and 70 and 40. And I know that these 2 angles are the same. Well, if these 2 angles are the same, then that makes these 2 sides the same. So why is ABC isosceles? Because 2 congruent sides. That's a little advanced thinking sometimes. All right, we're more going to deal with some problems like this sometimes, okay, at times. Next one, like something like that. We could see a lot more of that. If you want to try that, go ahead and give it a shot, all right? You can leave that here. You can flip to the back. There's a blank page. Just know that if these two angles are the same, then these two sides have to be the same, and you're going to set those equal. Maybe give that one a shot. I have the answers there for you. Other than that, I will see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Adios.